to help us out with this project.
Why do we have the long ones on the inside?
Never finish erection of a frame without putting a little tree on top of it to recognize where the whole frame came from. It's traditional.
Here we are.
Ooh, right in the middle. Wowzers. Keep going. Keep walking.
Charlie, turn around, Charlie.
His name is Henrik, and he will tell you why he wears these funny clothes and what he's doing here.
The clothes I have on, that's traditional clothes that we travel in. That's an old tradition we have in Europe. After you have done your apprenticeship as a carpenter, you can start traveling as a traveling carpenter. And we traveled for 3 years and 1 day before we were allowed to go home again.
Henrik is part of a very old craft training tradition, and he's what we call a journeyman, which means he's on his journey. He's completed his schooling and his fixed education, and now he has 3 years and a day where he is obliged to travel anywhere in the world, but he can't go home. He has all his possessions have to fit into his kerchief. He's pretty much guaranteed work in any guild shop. He has to be single and debt-free and travel very light and no possessions really. He keeps a book or a journal of his trip.
We're here till the 15th, then we, at least the Americans, turn into pumpkins because we got to get out of the country. And there is no budget for a crew to finish the thing off other than us. The job to do was to finish the job, and rather than leave $100,000 worth of work to do with no crew to do it. So the current theory is to let us do everything we can, if we can even finish the bridge. That means the frame, the roof, the floor. And then get it across somehow, which sort of is in sync with what the river's doing. The river is not nicely coming down to its usual low fall levels. It's kind of rocketing along. It wouldn't be a lot of fun to work in it or over it right now. So, the sad part about that is that some of us on this crew won't be here. Probably most of us won't be here when the installation happens. And our last memory of the bridge until we come back will be of a bridge in the street.
We had up until September 15th to make sure that we had all the abutments completed and the lock blocks in place and the bridge installed, because our in-stream work permits, because of the fisheries, would only allow us to work in-stream until September 15th.
It looks deeper from.
Yeah. So it's 2 to 4 feet.
The kokanee and the trout do come up the river, and they do spawn up in the Kicking Horse River. Unfortunately, September 15th came and went, and the water levels didn't go down. They remained very high, which put us in a position where we had a bridge sitting in the middle of the street, and we were kind of joking around saying, anybody can have a bridge across the river, we'll have ours across the street. And the other joke was, well, instead of actually putting the bridge over the river, we'll divert the river under the bridge.
There's no political boundaries on this bridge.
People from all over the world that really cared enough to take this valuable time out of their life to come and help us. I am overwhelmed, and I'm probably the most fortunate person in the whole world to be mayor of a community like this and to have people like that come to help us. So without any...
And we are grateful to you for the opportunity to come to this little bit of paradise and to build this beautiful thing of value. Thank you very much for taking such good care of us. Oh, wait!
This week of all weeks, we swim upstream and we make this bridge a way to bring people back together again.
Oh, wait!
I think personally I'm her biggest fan. I think she's a goddess, and when she can get anything done. If Lee asks you for money, give it to her. I know for a fact she only uses her superpowers for good, and she truly is a superwoman. And I've said time and time again that a man could not have done the job that she's done. I hope that it's not taken in a sexist way, but men, I would tend to, through the frustration, would have tended to walk away at many times.
I'll never ever forget it, and the gratitude that I feel to this community for supporting it, to the Rotary Club, to every single member of the Guild and member of the community that has contributed or donated to this project. I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and hope we have a really great evening tonight. Thank you.
There were a couple of days in that first week where I couldn't even confess it to myself, but I was really wondering whether we'd ever get this job done. I think we came through in large part under special circumstances because of Golden and the people of Golden. In fact, I have a feeling we may even leave the odd timber framer in Golden. Can't get away. I know I'm going to be back. It's just, for me, one of the most indelible memories of my lives. And you all have my enormous respect and affection. Congratulations.
I have the opportunity to drive with a few friends I made to Vancouver Island to see a little bit from Canada, not only working. And I go back to Germany, and after 1 month in Germany I finished my 3 years of traveling, and I'm looking forward to be home again.
We knew we had to go to one of the crane companies for the installation of the bridge.
When we found out it was going to cost $70,000 for the crane to lift this bridge into place, we were at about $420,000 of expenditures. And the budget, the absolute budget, was agreed at $450,000.
I made it very clear to the crane company that there's no way we could afford their normal rate. You know, we have this much money to be able to offer you to do this project. Would you please, please, please do it and help us out?
How do you stop a project in midstream? Or do we have an albatross sitting in the middle of a road? No, we move it.
As these two huge cranes were arriving in town, we were scrambling to get ready for them and prepare for this major lift.
Because the way the bridge was designed, the joinery was held together by tension and gravity. In order to be able to lift it up with the cranes, we had to install onto the bridge a host of bracing and extra cross bracing on all the timbers and the joints to make sure that once the cranes lifted up that bridge, that it wouldn't fall apart.
The first thing they had to do was to lift one end of the bridge onto a heavy-duty truck dolly. Then we could start lining up the bridge to get it over the river. There is a lot of choreography involved in this project, as the cranes start moving back and forth to different points to carefully pick up the ends of the bridge. It was very complicated, and our teams had never lifted anything quite like this before.
We still had to come up and devise and design a plan for the installation. So the design that we came up with was to engineer and design a foot or a set of legs onto the bridge, which would be installed temporarily. When the cranes would maneuver the bridge partway across the river, they would be able to put the bridge down into the river so that they could do this sort of crane ballet and get the cranes over to the other side of the river and then pick it up again and maneuver the bridge the rest of the way across.
On the second day, the foot was attached and reinforced by welding on additional support bracing.
Well, most of these joints used to be in compression, and because we're standing here on a cantilevered portion of the bridge, a lot of these joints are in tension. This one in particular has opened up and we can take the block out. And once we put the bridge back in place and it's loaded from this end, it's bearing at this end, all these joints will tighten up again and no harm done.
Once we had negotiated the deal with the crane company, we notified the guild members and the timber framers who had helped us out, and we were really thrilled that some of them could come back and participate in the installation process, and they were great help. We really needed all the help we could get. It weighed 210,000 pounds, and it was a very awkward bridge to try and move across the river.